In the Choi family, when a daughter is born, her name is carved into a piece of golden Nanmu wood. When she comes of age and decides who to marry, this plaque is passed on to her husband as part of the family tradition. When I turned 20, my father gave me two choices: childhood friend Daniel or Jason, the infamous heir of the Chi family, paralyzed from the waist down. To everyone's shock and disbelief, I pressed the golden Nanmu plaque onto Jason's name. My father looked completely stunned. "Emily, this is the most important decision of your life. You've always liked Daniel. Are you sure you won't regret this?" I looked across the room at Daniel, who was lovingly feeding cake to my younger sister. My voice was firm. "I will never regret it. The only one who will is him." Without realizing it, I wandered onto the cruise ship's deck, still holding the wooden plaque. "Emily Choi, why are you so desperate to get married?" Came a voice dripping with disdain behind me. "It's Lily's birthday, and you're walking around flashing that dumb plaque like you're trying to force me to marry you." Instinctively, I turned around. Daniel was holding a pair of high heels in one hand and leading barefoot Lily with the other, slowly walking toward me. The sight of them together made my chest tighten with sourness. Lily, smiling sweetly and innocently, suddenly dashed in front of me and snatched the plaque from my hand. "So this is the wooden plaque Dad made when we were born? It's actually kind of pretty." She curled her lips into a smirk, then casually reached over the railing and tossed the plaque into the sea. "The Nanmu plaque, passed down for generations in our family, must never be damaged or discarded." Clenching my teeth, I glared at her. "Lily Choi, are you insane?" Tears quickly welled up in her eyes as she turned to Daniel with a pitiful expression. "Danny, I just slipped. I didn't mean to lose the plaque Emily gave you." Daniel pulled her into his arms and turned to me with fury in his eyes. "Emily Choi, it's just a damn plaque. Is that really worth yelling at Lily over? I don't even know what you've turned into these days." Hearing his anger, bitterness welled up in my heart. Daniel and I were born in the same hospital, and I'd been attached to him since we were kids. When we were young and I climbed trees, he'd always stand beneath me, ready to catch me if I fell. In high school, when a classmate scratched up my arm and left it bleeding, Daniel stormed into the kitchen, grabbed a butcher knife and pressed it to the boy's neck, demanding an apology. We were childhood sweethearts, tied together by time and care. I had always believed my marriage would naturally be to Daniel. Not just me, everyone in our circle thought the same. But everything changed a year ago, when my younger sister, who had been missing for 17 years, was found. Just like a heroine from a novel, she effortlessly stole all of Daniel's affection. At first, I cherished Lily deeply. Every time I saw Daniel, I brought her along. Watching the two of them interact so harmoniously made me feel like I was surrounded by both love and family. But gradually, I started to get left out. More and more, I only heard Lily bragging about how good Daniel was to her. In just 1 year, she'd completely replaced me in his heart. What I saw today confirmed what I had already feared. Daniel no longer had any place for me in his heart. So, I decided to let them go and help them get what they wanted. I pulled out my phone and called the salvage team, giving them the coordinates, hoping they could retrieve the plaque. Daniel, standing nearby in disbelief, snapped at me. "What kind of attitude is that? That plaque was for me anyway. Instead of wasting time fishing it out of the water, maybe think about what you're getting Lily for her coming-of-age gift." The sea wind howled, carrying his words through my already torn heart. I had to grit my teeth and breathe for a while before I could answer him calmly. "Daniel, I never planned to marry you." He swept his eyes over me with contempt, clearly not believing a word I said. I didn't want to entangle myself with them any further. I turned and returned to my room. The evening banquet officially began. I stood like a background character in the corner, watching Lily flutter around Daniel like a butterfly. They stood close, exchanging glances and smiles, turning her birthday party into what looked more like their engagement celebration. Lowering my eyes, I found a corner to sit in quietly. But even then, Lily still wasn't done with me. She let go of Daniel's hand. Lily slowly walked up to me. The venom in her tone was a stark contrast to the warm, gentle way Daniel always spoke. "Danny said it's my birthday today, and whatever I ask for, he'll give it to me. What if I ask him to dump you and marry me instead? She gave a cruel, mocking smile. I forced down the disgust rising in my chest and managed a stiff smile. Who you marry has nothing to do with me. My calm reaction was nothing like what she had expected. Her expression darkened. Then she turned and called out, Danny, I've decided what I want for my birthday. Daniel turned toward her, and she pointed directly at the necklace around my neck. I really like this necklace Emily's wearing. My heart clenched. Instinctively, I reached up and covered it. That necklace was Daniel's 18th birthday gift to me. He had bought an entire diamond mine just to pick the stones himself. Every diamond on that necklace had been polished and set by his own hands. I hadn't taken it off since the day he gave it to me. Daniel's gaze landed on the necklace, and for a moment, he seemed lost in thought. Lily tugged on his arm and whined sweetly. Danny, can you ask her to give it to me? Pretty please? He hesitated for a second, then turned to me. Emily, take off the necklace. It wasn't a request, it was a command. My eyes instantly burned. He knew how much that necklace meant to me, and still, he asked me to give it away. Seeing that I didn't respond, Daniel's brow furrowed. It's just a necklace. Once the ship docks, I'll take you to buy a new one. It's rare for Lily to actually like something. Can't you, as her big sister, be a little more generous? This necklace, infused with over a decade of affection, once held so much meaning, but now that the love was gone, it suddenly seemed ordinary. I stared at Daniel for a long time. Then, without a word, I reached up, unclasped the necklace, and handed it to Lily. Whatever flicker of emotion had appeared in Daniel's eyes disappeared. He reached out and gently patted my hair, something he hadn't done in a long time. I'll take you to get a new one tomorrow. I stepped back and gave him a half-hearted smile. Don't bother. I don't want anything from you. Turning away, I started to leave when a server approached, holding out a phone to me. Confused, I took the call. The moment I brought it to my ear, a low, calm voice came through. Miss Choi, do you have any requests regarding the engagement party? I froze for a second, then realized who it was. Nothing too specific, just, I don't think I can give you the family plaque anymore. Why not? I looked out over the dark sea and answered quietly, it fell into the ocean. Jason gave a soft laugh. That's all right, as long as you're not calling off the engagement. I won't. Just as the words left my mouth, Daniel's mocking voice cut in from behind me. You hear that, Jason? That dramatic vow you just made. Bet you'll take it back before long. He scoffed. Emily, when are you going to get over your petty jealousy? Annoyed, I turned to glare at him. Why do you keep haunting me? You think I wanted to come, he shot back. It's Lily. She was scared you'd be upset and begged me to come cheer you up. Why can't you be more like her? You're always bitter and jealous. Not an ounce of grace like a proper heiress. He swirled the wine in his glass, then downed it in one gulp. His eyes dropped to the floor as he said flatly, Stop standing there like a statue. The banquet's starting. Go sit down. With that, he grabbed my arm and pulled me toward my seat. I was wearing sky-high heels, and the moment I took a step, my ankle twisted hard. Sharp pain shot up my leg, and I let out a scream as I collapsed to the ground. Daniel instinctively reached out and helped me up. Are you okay? Sweat beaded on my forehead from the pain. Clenching my teeth, I whispered, Get someone. I need some ointment or something. He paused for a moment, then turned and walked off. But he never came back. Eventually, a staff member noticed me and helped me back to the banquet hall. I limped to my seat, looking completely disheveled. When I lifted my eyes, I saw Daniel holding Lily's hand, carefully smoothing out the train of her dress that had dragged on the floor. Lily, standing slightly elevated, looked down at me with a smug, triumphant gaze. I turned my eyes away and gave a bitter, self-deprecating laugh. Even though I had long since given up on Daniel, I never imagined he could be so heartless, completely ignoring the fact that I was still injured and waiting just to fix Lily's dress. At that moment, I wasn't just a stranger to him. I was less than that. The birthday banquet proceeded as planned. Lily stood on stage like a princess, giving her speech. She thanked our parents, thanked Daniel, and finally, under everyone's watchful eyes, rose on tiptoe and kissed Daniel on the cheek. Daniel froze. Lily shot me a triumphant smile. I kept a blank expression as I clapped along with the others. When it was our parents' turn to speak, Daniel had already returned to sit beside me. "If you're angry, take it out on me," he said quietly. "Don't make things hard for Lily." I gave no response, simply listening to my parents' speech. Daniel's expression showed a flicker of confusion, as though he wanted to say more, but my parents' announcement cut him off. 3 days from now will be the engagement party for our eldest daughter, Emily Choi. We hope you will all honor us with your presence. After the guests began to disperse, Lily pushed her way through the crowd and stopped in front of me. Her face twisted with emotion. "No wonder you weren't jealous seeing me with Daniel," she hissed. "Turns out you already secured your engagement with someone else behind his back." Her eyes were red, and she glared at me with a mixture of fury and pain. I let out a cold laugh. "Lily Choi, you've been back with our family for a whole year, and your view of the world is still so narrow." I had pitied this long-lost sister all year. But it was clear, she didn't deserve my love. I thought she would argue with me like she always did, but instead she suddenly glanced behind me and her expression softened into a pitiful look. Her voice trembled. "Emily, I know you're upset that Daniel's been good to me. I'm sorry. I swear I'll never get close to him again." I instantly became alert and turned around. At some point, Daniel had appeared behind me. Before I could say anything, his eyes widened in panic. Then I heard a splash. I whipped my head around. Lily was gone. All that remained was the rippling surface of the sea. Daniel shoved me aside and jumped in without hesitation. Both of them were eventually pulled from the water. A doctor traveling with us took the unconscious Lily away. Daniel turned to face me, eyes dark with blame. "Lily spent over 10 years lost in the outside world. Are you really satisfied only if she ends up dead?" He stepped closer and closer. I backed away, but there was nowhere left to go. "She jumped on her own," I said. Daniel reached out, grabbed my neck, and shoved half my body over the railing. "If you had been a good sister, Lily never would have jumped. Tonight you'll kneel at her bedside and repent. If not, I'll make sure news of our broken engagement spreads across the entire country by morning." Dangling halfway over the edge of the deck, I couldn't stop the tears from falling. My whole body trembled with fear, and despair weighed down on me like a tidal wave. Suddenly, all the lights on the cruise ship flared on. A powerful force pulled Daniel away from me, and I was swept into someone's embrace. The man everyone spoke of in whispers, the crippled fiancé, now stood tall and commanding before me, framed in light, with sharp features and undeniable presence. "Who the hell do you think you are?" Jason growled, "telling my fiancé to kneel and apologize to someone else?" Daniel's fury froze on his face. He turned to Jason, squinting in disbelief. "Who are you? How did you even get on this ship?" He reached out to grab my wrist. "And this is my fiancé." Jason's eyes landed on Daniel's hand gripping my wrist. With a soft snort, he reached out and calmly pried Daniel's fingers off me. "You say you're her fiancé?" Jason said coldly. "Then tell me, do you have the Choi family's engagement plaque?" Daniel's expression darkened immediately. Jason raised an eyebrow. "Of course not. You threw it into the sea." Then he turned to me, his voice gentle. "Did you really give it to him?" I shook my head. "He's lying." Jason looked into my eyes. "The one who holds the plaque is your rightful fiancé. Isn't that how it works?" I nodded instinctively, then hesitated and added softly, "It's an old family tradition." In today's world, marriage is about free will. Whether or not there's a family plaque doesn't really make a difference. And mine had already fallen into the sea. It was supposed to be lost forever. Jason gently brushed his fingers over the red marks on my neck left from being grabbed. His touch was light, but his eyes were filled with concern. "Does it hurt?" I gave him a faint smile. "It doesn't." Daniel saw our interaction and looked like he was about to explode. "Emily Choi, do you even remember that I'm your fiancé? How dare you let another man hold you like that?" The sound of his voice made my stomach turn. I frowned, clearly annoyed. "Do you not understand English, Daniel? I already told you, you're not my fiancé." Daniel sneered, tugging at the corner of his lips. "You gave me the family plaque. Our engagement party is in 3 days. What, you think you can just deny it now? You'll still have to go through with it, whether you like it or not. But if you apologize to Lily right now, the engagement party can still happen as planned. If not, enjoy throwing a party without a groom." My patience snapped. The engagement party was never meant for you anyway, because the person I'm engaged to is Jason. Daniel's eyes widened in disbelief. He looked from me to Jason, who still had his arm around me, like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. Without a word, Jason pulled a small wooden plaque from his pocket. My name was carved into it. I froze. Then pure joy surged through me. How did you find it? I asked. The plaque wasn't even the length of a palm. Dropped into the sea, it was like a grain of rice. I had already hired a salvage team who searched for 5 hours without any luck. I'd given up completely. I never expected that, after all that, it would somehow end up in Jason's hands. Jason met my eyes, his gaze warm. You said it fell into the sea. I thought I'd give it a try. Turns out I found it pretty quickly. I couldn't wait to bring it to you, so I boarded the ship right away. I stood stunned for a moment. Lost, then found. Given, then taken. Abandoned, then miraculously returned. The very plaque Daniel had so carelessly tossed into the ocean now sat safely in Jason's hand, as if fate had decided it belonged with him all along. Maybe he had used considerable resources to find it. Or maybe, just like he said, it had been that easy. Either way, the plaque was now with him. And that was fate's answer. I smiled and reached out, gently closing his open hand around the plaque. It was always meant to be yours. Daniel watched all of this unfold, looking like he was about to crack. His voice broke with rage. Emily Troy? I turned to look at him, my expression cool. I told you I'm not marrying you. If you care so much about Lily, then go ahead. Care for her all you want. You and I. We have nothing to do with each other anymore. I saw, for the first time, something shift in his eyes. Real pain. But I just turned and leaned into Jason's embrace, exhaling slowly. When the ship docked, my parents looked at me and Lily with conflicted expressions. They knew we weren't getting along, but they hadn't expected the rift to be this deep. Flesh and blood, both sides of their hearts. How could they choose? I understood their struggle. Mom, Dad, go to the hospital first, I said softly. Jason took my hand. I scheduled fittings for your jewelry and gown today. Come with me. I nodded, about to take a step when Daniel's voice called out behind me. Emily, don't go with him. There was moisture in his eyes, pleading, desperate. I tilted my head and let out a quiet, mocking laugh. Daniel, who gave you the right to control me? He opened his mouth but said nothing. It wasn't until I had walked far away that I finally heard him call out again. I'll come to your house tomorrow. I'll explain everything. I pretended not to hear, walking away with Jason. We sat side by side in the back seat of the car. Jason's gaze occasionally flicked toward me, calm but observant. I didn't know what to say. He had always been a mysterious figure, rarely appearing in public. Rumor had it that anyone who wanted to meet him had to go through 3 levels of security and 4 separate screenings. Stories about him in the outside world were wild and varied. Some said he was grotesquely disfigured. Others said he was severely disabled. Cruel and violent. That's how people often imagined the man at the top of the pyramid. When they couldn't understand someone's power, they distorted it with extremes. At least, that's what I believed before I met Jason. I had never expected him to be so calm and refined, gentle, elegant, and with a face so striking it made you pause without realizing. I was so lost in thought that when I heard him ask, "What are you thinking about?" I instinctively blurted out, "That you're really good looking." The words caught in my throat the moment they came out. Jason blinked in surprise, then chuckled softly. Well, I'm glad my appearance didn't disappoint you. The corners of my mouth twitched. I quickly straightened up and sat properly. No, of course not. You're very handsome. He nodded in amusement. Embarrassed, I turned my head to the other side and kept it that way the rest of the ride, never noticing that the faint smile on Jason's face hadn't faded for even a second. It wasn't until the car pulled up outside a bridal boutique that I snapped out of my thoughts. He hadn't been joking when he said he wanted to take me to look at wedding dresses. Naturally, he took my hand and led me into the shop. In the center of the store was a breathtakingly intricate wedding gown, glowing with delicate craftsmanship. I only gave it a quick glance, but I couldn't take my eyes off it. This was the kind of gown every girl dreams of. And yet, I couldn't bring myself to feel happy. The gowns from this brand were all handmade. A dress like this would take at least a year to complete. which meant it already belonged to someone else. When a staff member approached and offered to let me try it on, I hesitated. That's not appropriate, is it? It's someone else's dress, I can't just wear it. Jason looked at me, then at the gown. His brow furrowed. It's not. I bought that dress. A strange tightness gripped my chest. I smiled, but it was forced. Jason, this kind of gown takes over a year to make. You didn't order it for me, it was for someone else. I shouldn't be the one to wear it. I reached out my hand. Give me back the plaque. I never expected a marriage built on business to be romantic. But I couldn't accept marrying a man whose heart belonged to someone else. Give it back to me. Let's just cancel the engagement. Jason's expression flickered with confusion, and oddly, a trace of joy. Just as he opened his mouth to speak, my phone started buzzing non-stop in my pocket, interrupting him. I pulled it out. Dozens of photos from Lily flooded the screen, each one showing Daniel being intimately attentive to her. Just looking at the photos, it was obvious that their relationship had long surpassed that of mere friends. If it had been before, these images would have broken my heart. But now, all I felt was exhaustion and disgust. Coupled with the wedding dress situation, my irritation multiplied. I didn't hesitate to call Lily. The second she picked up, I snapped. What are you trying to show off? That you've got a lousy man all to yourself? I told you. I don't want someone, unless he's covered in gold and diamonds. I paused, then added coldly, and as for all the things you did to frame me, if you push me too far, I won't care if Mom and Dad get mad. I'll personally throw you into the ocean. There was a long silence on the other end. Finally, a quiet voice came through. Emily. It's me. I froze, then promptly hung up without a word. Jason looked at me and spoke softly. I've never had feelings for anyone else. Still burning with residual frustration, I immediately snapped back. Never had feelings for anyone else? Then what's with the wedding dress? Who's it for? A ghost? The moment the words left my mouth, I realized something was wrong. We were just about to get engaged, and we'd only met once before. It wasn't my place to question him like this, certainly not with that kind of tone. I ran a hand through my hair, exhaling a few steadying breaths to calm myself down, then finally looked at him and offered a quiet apology. I'm sorry. I lost my temper. I shouldn't have asked you that. Whether or not you've loved someone before, that's your business. Jason nodded. His gaze, deep and steady, remained fixed on me. But is there someone you like now? I asked, voice barely above a whisper. He nodded again, slowly, his eyes never leaving mine. And I pressed my lips together, silently looking back at him. At that moment, I realized the rumors about Jason weren't wrong after all. Maybe he was born with a disability, just not physical. Maybe it was in his brain. Just now, he said he'd never liked anyone before. And then a second later, he claimed there was someone he liked now. I couldn't keep pretending anymore. I stretched out my hand, annoyed. Give me the plaque. I'm going home. Jason looked stunned for a moment, then reached out and gently held my wrist. Miss Choi, can you let me finish? You've already interrupted me twice. I tried to pull away, but he didn't let go. With no other option, I stared at him reluctantly and muttered, fine. He smiled, tugged me a little closer, and just as I was about to snap again, he spoke. I really haven't liked anyone before, but I do now. Emily Choi. I've had a crush on you for a long time. What? I looked up abruptly, meeting the calm but focused look in his eyes. He smiled. Do you think the Chi family needs a political marriage? I agreed to this engagement willingly, only because I knew the person I'd be marrying was you. As he said that, my heart started racing uncontrollably. I looked around the room, anywhere but his eyes, and swallowed hard before managing to ask, why? He looked at me gently. Maybe you don't remember, but years ago, you saved a boy from drowning. The moment he said it, a memory flickered back into my mind. I was maybe 13 or 14 at the time. I'd gone to the riverside with Daniel. I wanted milk tea, so Daniel went to get it. While waiting, I spotted a boy floating in the river, pale but calm. I was panicking, completely out of my depth, but somehow I managed to grab a tree branch and pull him out. I didn't even have time to say a word to him. The moment he was on land, a group of men who looked like bodyguards rushed over and whisked him away. I never thought much of it afterward. I just used it to brag now and then, casually telling the story 5, 6, 7 times like it was no big deal. But now, the boy's face from that day was slowly aligning with the man standing in front of me. "So, it was you?" I asked, stunned. "You were the boy in the river?" Jason gave a small nod, completely at ease with the truth. I wasn't in great health as a kid. My family didn't allow me to go outside, but I was stubborn and snuck out. I never expected. He paused, and I thought he was going to tell me about some mischievous adventure. But then his tone shifted. I never expected someone would push me in. My breath caught. "Emily," he said, voice low and steady, "people like us. Danger isn't rare. That day, if I hadn't met you, I might not have made it out of that river alive." My heart sank sharply. I stumbled over my words. "So after that, you rarely went outside?" He nodded. "At first, yes, but later, I just realized there was no point. A lot of people, a lot of things, they're not worth getting involved with. And most of them don't even deserve to see me." I nodded in understanding. We sat in silence for a long while. Then he spoke again. "Now that we've cleared up the misunderstanding, can we try on the wedding dress?" My head snapped up. "You designed it yourself?" Jason nodded. "I started designing it the day you turned 18. It took 2 years to finish, every detail done by me. I hope you won't dislike it." I blinked, stunned. "You made it by hand?" He nodded again and held up his fingers as he counted. "Not just the dress. I also made the necklace, the earrings, and the ring. Though the ring is only a sketch for now. I'm waiting to get your ring size before I have it crafted." I was completely overwhelmed. For someone like me, who had once been so sure I was going to marry Daniel, how had Jason found the will to do all this? What had he been thinking? And so I asked him. His eyes dimmed slightly. "I don't know. I just really wanted to. I'm glad I did, though. Otherwise, you'd have nothing right now." My eyes burned with sudden heat. I reached up and gently touched his cheek. "I'm glad, too. Otherwise, we'd be having a wedding with nothing to wear." Jason let out a soft chuckle. "No chance. Even if I hadn't made all this, I would have searched the entire world to find you the best." I was completely overwhelmed with emotion. Jason smiled and said, "Go try on the dress. If it doesn't fit, there's still time to alter it." While I was in the fitting room trying on the gown, chaos had already broken out at the hospital. Daniel was holding Lily's phone, flipping through the photos she had sent me. His face was twisted in fury as he gritted his teeth and demanded, "Why did you send these to Emily?" Lily, sitting on the hospital bed, had tears falling one after another. She clutched the blanket tightly, looking as pitiful as ever. "I was just standing up for you, Danny. You've loved her for so long. Why should she be the one to give the family plaque to someone else? If she can use someone else to hurt you, then why can't you use me to make her jealous?" Daniel's chest heaved in anger, and he finally couldn't hold it in anymore. "What the hell are you talking about? You're the one who wanted to provoke her, not me. You begged me for a birthday party. You put on that innocent act to get me to lend you my cruise ship. I only agreed because you're Emily's sister. And what did you do? Why the hell did you kiss me on stage?" He had never yelled at Lily like this before. She was stunned, frozen in place, but Daniel's fury didn't subside just because she was scared. His eyes fell on the diamond necklace around her neck, glinting sharply under the light. It stung his eyes. He had made that necklace for me with his own hands. What had possessed him to hand it over to Lily so impulsively? Now Daniel was spinning in circles, desperately trying to think of how to win me back. Lily watched him, her eyes burning with jealousy. "Danny, Emily already gave her plaque to someone else, but I haven't. Why don't you marry me instead?" The moment she brought up the plaque, Daniel clenched his jaw. "You've got some nerve saying that. If you hadn't thrown Emily's plaque into the sea, it never would have ended up with Jason." Lily fell completely silent, lips pressed into a pout. She didn't say another word, just stared at Daniel with teary, wounded eyes. But he didn't even look back. He turned around and walked out of the hospital room. The next 3 days, Jason and I stayed busy preparing for our engagement ceremony. My parents and grandfather were involved too, all bustling around with tasks. As for Daniel and Lily, they seemed to have disappeared completely. Neither of them showed up to bother me again. Just as I began to believe the engagement would go off without a hitch, Daniel showed up, right at my front door. Jason was about to help me into the car when Daniel stepped out and blocked our way, arms spread wide. Emily, you can't marry him. I frowned, caught off guard by his sudden appearance. Daniel, who I marry has nothing to do with you. I don't believe that, he said, desperate. We grew up together, remember? You said your biggest dream was to marry me. How can you give yourself to someone else? I know you're still angry that I treated Lily well this past year. But I only did it because of you. You told me she was your only sister. You told me she'd suffered for years. You said I should be good to her. If it weren't for that, I never would have looked at her twice. He said it like it was righteous, like it justified everything. I let out a sharp, bitter laugh. So just because I said that, you decided to take back all your love for me and give it to her? Even after I chose to walk away, you still managed to twist everything and blame me? I stared him down coldly. Daniel, I never realized how shameless you could be. His face flushed, then paled. I just love you so much, Emily. Please, give me a chance to fix things. I gave him a mocking smile. You don't love me. You love yourself. You love the thrill of newness. Don't stand here and tell me you love me. It makes me sick. I turned sharply. Get out of my way. I'm going to my engagement. Jason, standing beside me, gently pulled me into his arms. Then, right in front of Daniel's blazing eyes, he kissed me. If you want to come to our engagement ceremony, Jason said calmly, you're welcome. But if you're here to cause trouble, don't blame me for what happens next. After Jason said that, we got in the car and drove off without looking back. Jason, ever gracious, had even arranged for Daniel to sit in the front row of our engagement ceremony. I gave him a look of disbelief. Why would you do that? Provoking him, what good does that do for you? Jason leaned against me like he had no bones in his body, a mischievous smile tugging at his lips. If he hadn't self-destructed first, I wouldn't have gotten the chance to put him front and center. Makes it easier for me to thank him properly. I really couldn't understand his twisted sense of humor. But thinking about how he'd hidden his feelings for so many years, I let it go. I shifted a bit toward him and asked, but what if he tries to cause a scene? Jason's expression instantly turned serious. I won't give him that chance. I believe he'll be able to hold it together. So I let it be. We'd guarded against Daniel, but we hadn't accounted for Lily. Just as our engagement reached its peak, and Jason and I were about to exchange rings, Lily stumbled in, still wearing a hospital gown. She collapsed to her knees with a dramatic thud and cried out in a piercing voice, Sister, you already have everything. Can't you just stop fighting me for Daniel? Her voice cracked. I was lost for 17 years. Since I came home, I've never fought you for anything. All I want is Daniel. Please, please let me have him. Problem after problem, no matter how patient I was starting to boil over. Lily, I said, my voice cold. I've never made things hard for you, because you're my sister. It's you who's been constantly provoking me, even going so far as to fake a suicide attempt to frame me. I've long since stopped caring about Daniel. Whether or not you marry him has nothing to do with me. Now get out of my engagement party. Lily bit her lip, trying to look pitiful. She turned her eyes to Daniel. Danny, did you see that? She doesn't even like you. I'm your sister too. I'm not much different from her. Why won't you look at me? Daniel had bodyguards stationed around the room just in case he acted up, but Lily's little outburst reignited the fire in him. He flared up immediately. If it weren't for you, Emily wouldn't be angry at me, he snapped. Lily, I told you not to show your face again. Next time, I won't let you off easy. He stared her down, eyes filled with seething hatred. As the room fell into tense silence, his gaze suddenly locked onto the set of knives on the banquet table. Without warning, he lunged forward, snatched up a fruit knife, and charged at Lily. The blade came down hard. A gush of blood spread across the floor. The entire room froze in horror, followed by panicked, high-pitched screams. Jason pulled me tightly into his arms and pressed a hand over my eyes. Call the police. Get an ambulance, someone shouted. The room was in total chaos. The bodyguards reacted instantly, swarming Daniel and forcing him to the ground. He was pinned down, unable to move, but his bloodshot eyes never left Lily, burning with fury as if he wanted to tear her apart. My parents were frozen in shock. Then they rushed to Lily, lifting her up in a panic and hurrying her into an ambulance. What was supposed to be a joyful engagement ceremony had turned into total devastation. Still shaking, I clung to Jason's shirt. I'm sorry. Even our engagement got ruined like this. Jason's hand trembled slightly as he lowered his head to press his forehead against mine. Don't apologize. I'm just thankful that knife didn't land on you. I shook my head and leaned into his embrace. After the chaos calmed down, we rushed to the hospital. No matter what had happened, Lily was still my sister. Family couldn't just ignore each other. But when we arrived, all we saw were my parents staring blankly at a sheet of paper, looking lost. What's wrong? I asked, heart tightening. Is she not doing well? My dad looked at me, then shook his head. She's not in any danger. But her blood type is O. I straightened. O type? I'm type A. My dad is AB. My mom is also type A. There's absolutely no way we could have had a child with type O blood. Which meant Lily wasn't my sister. But hadn't we done a DNA test when we brought her home? It was done at a private clinic. Supposedly impossible to get wrong. Jason gently squeezed my hand and said quietly, if the test result wasn't wrong, then the sample must have been. Maybe. He knew where the real Lily was. My knees buckled and I staggered back. Jason caught me just in time, about to say something when the door to the hospital room opened. She's awake, the nurse said. Family can come in. I didn't wait. I shoved the door open and stormed inside, standing over her bed with fire in my voice. Where's my sister? How dare you live under her name without a shred of guilt? Lily, or rather the girl who'd been posing as her, kept her head down, tears falling like rain. So, you found out, she whispered. There was no fight left in her. She finally told the truth. During the years my real sister was missing, our family had never stopped searching. Our faces often appeared on TV as part of national coverage. This girl, Li Shiyu, looked strikingly similar to me, at least 80% alike. She had once been close friends with my real sister. When she saw the missing person reports, temptation took over. It hadn't been hard for her to get a sample of my sister's hair or blood, and with that, she easily faked her way into our family. All while the real Lily had been enlisted in the military from a young age, isolated from the outside world, completely unaware of what had happened. I stared at Li Shiyu, fury bubbling to the surface. You're disgusting. You stole my sister's identity. You tried to steal the man I loved. Is your need for affection that bottomless? Don't ever let me see you again. Next time, I won't be this nice. She didn't speak, not even an apology. I looked at her for a long time, until the last bit of disappointment hardened into silence. Then I gave a cold laugh, turned around, and took my parents with me. We went straight to the military base, where my real sister was stationed, and told her everything that had happened over the past year. Looking into her face, so much like mine, I couldn't hold it in anymore. Tears streamed down my cheeks. I know you've suffered a lot, but we never stopped looking for you. You're not alone anymore. You have a home now. Her eyes reddened, and she nodded through her tears. Jason stood beside me, holding my hand. He gave my shoulder a gentle pat. Don't cry anymore. Finding your sister is a good thing. Once she's discharged from the military, let her come stay with us often. I nodded, then turned back again and again as we finally left the base. A few days later, Jason and I held a new engagement ceremony. This time, everything went smoothly. No drama, no disasters. After the ceremony, we registered our marriage. Later, someone from Daniel's family came to our door, and only then did we find out. Daniel had turned himself in to the police on the night of our engagement party. The Pei family, furious over the public fallout, had taken out all their anger on Li Shiyu. She had since slinked out of the city, disappearing without a trace. This time, the Pei family came to apologize, to me and Jason. They hoped what had happened wouldn't damage the relationship between our families. I gave them a small wave of my hand. It's all right. I've let go of everything from the past. None of that will change the relationship between our families. Relieved, they finally left. Once they were gone, Jason turned to me, still fuming. Why are you always so generous? I smiled helplessly, wrapped my arms around his waist and teased, because I already have you. You gave me the happiness I was looking for. Why would I waste time dwelling on things that only brought me pain? He pouted a little, but his arms instinctively pulled me close. Bookmark. I knew him well. He always said one thing, but meant another. The end.